U.S. President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a phone call that came hours after Trump posted a message telling Israel not to destabilize Syria. Following the call, the Prime Minister's office announced that Netanyahu had received another invitation to visit the White House. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
U.S. President Donald Trump has reportedly invited Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to visit the White House in the near future. The two leaders spoke by phone, and the PMO announced the invitation after the call. According to the Prime Minister's office, the two leaders discussed the importance of and commitment to dismantling Hamas's military capabilities and demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, as well as efforts to expand regional peace accords. It has not been revealed whether the two leaders discussed Netanyahu's formal request for a presidential pardon from President Herzog in his corruption trial, a move Trump has repeatedly supported, both publicly in the Knesset and in a subsequent letter. If confirmed, the trip would mark Netanyahu's fifth White House visit since Trump returned to office in January. The call came hours after Trump warned Israel not to destabilize Syria or its new leadership. The message released on Truth Social came after IDF soldiers clashed with gunmen in southern Syria. Trump posted, "It is very important that Israel maintain a strong and true dialogue with Syria and that nothing takes place that will interfere with Syria's evolution into a prosperous state." Trump said he is very satisfied with Syria's performance under its new president, Ahmed al-Shara, a former rebel who made a historic White House visit in November. Good relations between Syria and Israel, said Trump, would bolster his broader push for Middle East peace amid the fragile Gaza ceasefire in effect since October.
And joining us now with more on U.S.-Israel relations is Ari Haro, former Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ari, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Alita. Good to see you.
Always great to see you as well. So, how would you characterize the state of relations between Israel and the United States right now?
I think the relationship is as strong and as close as ever. Let's start off with the point that the Prime Minister was invited for another visit to the White House, making it the fifth visit within the first year of this presidency. Just for the viewers to know, the most visits that a foreign leader other than Netanyahu has made to the White House in 1 year after a new president was elected. Prior to this was 2. So there's a very close relationship between the two leaders and between the two countries. I think that our success and the U.S. success in the region is very much intertwined. And I think that we've seen over and over again in the last year the level of cooperation between the two countries.
So President Trump is standing by Prime Minister Netanyahu also regarding his trial. He's inviting him to the White House. There's definitely a very close connection there. But at the same time, he seems to be sort of tying Israel's hands when it comes to maneuvering in the Middle East. I mean, what do you make of this?
I think that, while we sort of view the potential immediate threats through the lens of a post-October 7th Israel, President Trump obviously is looking at it through the lens of a broader Abraham Accord. Now, those two goals are not, they don't clash. Obviously, we too want to see the Abraham Accords expand, and we want to see peace in the region. So too, President Trump wants to see a secure and safe Israel. It's just a matter of what is more pressing and where they're coming from. So I think that the dialogue between the two leaders is going to continue. Obviously, Israel is going to continue to do what it needs to do to secure the citizens of Israel and the safety of the country. But at the same time, we will continue to work with President Trump at expanding the path to peace.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned the Abraham Accords. Trump has had very good meetings with the president of Syria, of course, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. And, he made it very clear that Palestinian statehood was back on the table for normalization to happen, something that, of course, Israel opposes. Could Trump, envision a scenario where Trump could essentially force Israel to make concessions towards a Palestinian state to reach this sort of grand dream of peace in the Middle East? I mean, maybe perhaps even in the upcoming visit at the White House. I mean, what's your thoughts on this?
So we have to remember that international relations and diplomatic relations, similar to domestic politics, is really the art of compromise. Now, that doesn't mean that a country, any country, and definitely not Israel, should be compromising on its security needs and its just key components to securing its future. Having said that, when you're dealing with the superpower of the world, the United States, and looking to broaden our own regional security, there's obviously a tightrope that we need to walk. Sometimes statements are made with the potential backlash for them really not facing a country for many, many years to come. I think that Trump's take on the Palestinian state really was, to a certain degree, lip service to the region, showing that he's not going to abandon that avenue. But at the same time, it's clear to the United States that Israel is in no position to make any significant or real steps towards Palestinian statehood when 85% of the residents and citizens of Israel oppose that type of move.
All right, well, Ari Harrow, thank you so much for joining us today and for your valuable insights.
My pleasure.
And Israel is preparing to receive from the Red Cross findings that were transferred from the Gaza Strip. The findings will be transferred to the National Center of Forensic Medicine. This, according to an announcement from the Prime Minister's office. The Captives and Missing Directorate is in continuous contact with the families of the 2 fallen hostages who remain in Gaza. And meanwhile, the IDF says it has eliminated another senior Palestinian Islamic Jihad commander in a targeted strike in Gaza. The IDF announced that following Hamas violations of the ceasefire, including fire at IDF troops on November 22nd, the IDF, with intelligence from the IDF Directorate, struck multiple terror targets, operatives, and commanders across the Gaza Strip. The Army confirms that Ala al-Din Abd al-Nasser Hassan Qudari, a Nukba commander in the Islamic Jihad Gaza City Brigade, was killed in the operation, directed by IDF intelligence with Shin Bet support. Qudari infiltrated kibbutz Nachal Oz during the October 7th massacre and continued to direct attacks on Israeli troops and civilians throughout the war. Nachal Oz was among the community's hardest hit, with dozens killed, wounded, and abducted. And coming amid the ceasefire, the IDF says the strike is part of a broader wave of attacks on Hamas and Islamic Jihad operatives and commanders aimed at disrupting their remaining operational capabilities across the Gaza Strip. And in other news, 2 young Israelis were lightly wounded in a suspected stabbing attack near the Jewish community of Atarot, north of Jerusalem. The assailant was immediately neutralized. Earlier, IDF troops killed a separate assailant who attempted a second car ramming near Hebron. The driver rammed an IDF soldier at the Otkim junction near Kiryat Arba and attempted to hit another military unit in the Hebron area. A soldier was lightly wounded when the attacker accelerated toward her unit. He was shot dead by troops from the 202nd Battalion of the Paratroopers Brigade. And in Beirut, Pope Leo continued his mission of peace, addressing thousands at Martyrs Square, just miles from areas hit by recent clashes between Israel and Hezbollah. The first U.S.-born Pope, Leo is using his visit to urge Lebanon's fractured communities to reject violence and embrace coexistence, even as the country struggles with an economic collapse and the aftershocks of the Gaza war. He met Christian, Sunni, Shiite, and Druze leaders, calling them builders of peace, and warned that fear and prejudice must not be allowed to dominate the region's future. The Pope said peace is still possible and must be pursued.
In an age when coexistence can seem like a distant dream, the people of Lebanon, while embracing different religions, stand as a powerful reminder that fear, distrust, and prejudice do not have the final word, and that unity, reconciliation, and peace are possible.
And meanwhile, American support for Israel is dropping, and data shows the shift is happening fastest among the next generation of U.S. voters. So what does this mean for the future of Israel's most important alliance? Our correspondent India Naftali reports.
American public opinion on Israel is undergoing one of the sharpest shifts in decades, and much of that change is happening among younger Republicans and evangelicals, groups that have historically been Israel's strongest supporters. A Brookings poll found that half of Republican voters aged 18 to 49 now view Israel unfavorably, meaning the future of the party, the voters who will shape the next 25 years, are less committed to Israel than their parents' generation. Meanwhile, the Republican Party's America First shift is adding another layer, as a growing share of voters want to cut foreign aid across the board, including aid to Israel. Another poll from August found that 50% of registered U.S. voters believe Israel is committing genocide. This number is driven largely by younger Americans and Democrats. This represents a massive movement in public opinion. Evangelical support for Israel is also changing. There are around 78 million evangelicals in America today. Once considered Israel's most reliable base in the U.S., support among young evangelical Christians has dropped by more than 50% in just 3 years. Analysts point to polarization, social media influence, and a shift towards seeing global conflicts as moral struggles between the powerful and oppressed, often without the historical or regional context that makes the situation far more complex. And with the past 2 years of war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, these perceptions are solidifying, not softening. So the base is shrinking, but it is far from disappearing. Evangelicals are still one of the most pro-Israel groups in America, with 69% saying Israel has a biblical right to the land. For Israel, the stakes are high. The U.S. is still its most important ally, militarily, politically, and diplomatically. And as America's political landscape shifts, Israel may soon face a future where support from Washington is no longer guaranteed. For now, the alliance remains strong, but the question isn't about today. It's about where American public opinion is headed and what that will mean for Israel in the decades ahead.
And on the topic of U.S.-Israel relations, this week, the largest ever delegation of some 1,000 Christian pastors and influencers are visiting Israel in a special program led by the Friends of Zion Museum in Jerusalem and the Foreign Ministry. They're in Israel to train to become ambassadors in combating the ideological war against Israel and the West. Joining us now with more on this historic mission is Dr. Mike Evans, the founder of the Friends of Zion Heritage Center, one of the leading voices in the Christian world today, known for his lifelong work in combating anti-Semitism and a close confidant of President Donald Trump. Dr. Evans, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So can you tell us a little bit about this delegation, the largest ever to visit from the United States? I mean, what prompted such a visit, and what's its purpose?
Well, there's been an ideological war going on in the United States. So let's just take the U.S. stock market. Around 1/3 of the U.S. stock market is controlled by the Gulf states, over $3 trillion. So you have Qatar as an example, who's dropped $400 billion into America to influence social media. They're now using AI to do it, and algorithm and bots, like they did the universities. So it's all intentional to poison the minds of the young people of America. And our objective is to use the pulpit, and the pulpit will speak louder than the propaganda.
And what is on the agenda for this delegation?
It's very strategic. We have probably over 40 meetings with in the Ambassador Summit with the top leaders of the nation. Example, we go to Nova tomorrow. We're going to have an event with the hostages and their families to show solidarity. Then we have our opening with Mike Huckabee that evening. We have an event at the Kotel in which the 1,000 leaders will take the names of the Israelis that were massacred, put them in the cracks of the wall, pray for their family. They'll go to Mount Herzl with the flowers and the flags, and they'll put them on the graves of all the soldiers killed since October 7th, and the widows will be there also. So it's a time to educate and activate these leaders. And by the way, over 200 of them are connected with Donald Trump. They're part of the Trump faith movement, They're the most powerful. They own media stations, television stations. They're massive broadcasters. And we have to do it. We have to do it because we have some crazies out there like Tucker Carlson who's saying Israel is not an ally anymore. We don't need the state of Israel. We'll tell that to the victims of 9/11.
Absolutely. And, you know, speaking of Tucker Carlson and in general, I mean, as we just saw, Christian support for Israel is also eroding. I mean, polls are consistently showing that Christian youth are moving away from Israel. So, I mean, what, in your opinion, needs to be done to maintain the close relationship between Israel and the American Christian community?
The state of Israel has never fought an ideological war. Shimon Peres, my chairman, told me the new wars are ideological, economic, media, and proxy wars. Now, the state of Israel has a problem. Only 0.12% of the population is Israelis. That means for every 10,000 people, only 12 are Israelis. We're 9.7% of the global population. So we need to partner with the state of Israel. The majority of Zionists in the world are not Jewish. They're Christian Zionists. We need to partner with them. We need to use our influence in social media to help win these hearts and minds of these young people. They've been poisoned by the enemies of Israel. By the way, they're not only in the Gulf states, they're throughout Europe and other parts of the world, and they have a massive amounts of money and influence. Thanks to AI, they're using bots now to do it, but we can win them over. I've told the Prime Minister, I've told the leaders of the nation, we're on your team. We're going to do this. Listen, these 1,000 pastors not coming here for a tour. They're coming here to be ambassadors, to partner with the state of Israel, to fight the lies against the nation of Israel.
Such absolutely important work, especially these days. Dr. Mike Evans, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great honor. All the best.
And before we continue, I want to take a moment to share our mission here at ILTV, strengthening Israel's voice worldwide through clear, factual, and unapologetic reporting. That's why your support matters so much. By subscribing to our app, you become part of that mission, helping us stand firm for our values and ensuring Israel's story is told with accuracy and conviction. And with your subscription, you'll have full access to our 24/7 channel with live updates every hour, keeping you connected around the clock. Just scan the QR code on your screen to subscribe and stand with us. And moving on, Israel's already robust air defense systems are getting a brand new upgrade, one that is expected to change the game of air defense and save Israel millions of dollars. ILTV's Devo Klein shows us the all-new laser beam, Or Eitan.
Meet the laser system that is changing the game. The Or Eitan should be fully operational within the coming weeks, so why does Israel need yet another aerial defense system? You may have heard of the Iron Dome, tasked with intercepting short-range rockets and mortars like the ones we see from Hamas and Hezbollah that fire at Israel. Or perhaps the David Sling system, which intercepts mid-range missiles inside the atmosphere, used to intercept Houthi or Iranian attacks. But there's one more. The Arrow's impressive technology detects long-range and high-altitude threats, such as long-range ballistic missiles and ICBMs outside of the atmosphere. As Israel faces a multi-front war from hostile neighbors, it is essential to possess these different systems. But there's one problem. Each interceptor can cost up to $50,000. So while the systems are impressive, they are extremely expensive. What if Israel could intercept aerial threats while saving financial resources? That is the mission that Rafael and Elbit Systems set out to solve. Fast forward, and we are getting the first ever laser beam, or Or Eitan. This system intercepts all types of aerial threats, ranging from simple mortars to UAVs to long-range ballistic missiles. The Iron Beam does it all. Israel is expected to field laser beam batteries across the country within weeks, thus being able to use them in operational settings very soon for the first time around the world. With regional tensions rising, this system will play a pivotal role in Israeli security, and it's pretty cool too.
And moving on, the Irish have been among Israel's most outspoken critics since October 7th, even rewarding Hamas with recognition of a Palestinian state last year. And now, after severe backlash, Dublin has decided to delay a vote that would rename a park that was named after Israel's 6th president to the Free Palestine Park. The details in the following report. The Dublin City Council has delayed a decision on whether to remove the name of former Israeli President Chaim Herzog from a local park and rename it the Free Palestine Park. The decision to delay the vote came after serious debate and backlash from Irish and Israeli leaders. Supporters of the move say the name of Chaim Herzog, who was raised in Dublin and served as president of Israel from 1983 to 1993, should be removed as an act of solidarity with Palestinians. Ireland's government has been one of Europe's most outspoken critics of Israel since the October 7th massacre. It officially recognized a Palestinian state last year and is seeking to sanction and restrict trade with Israeli businesses in Judea and Samaria. But Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin called the move to rename the park a denial of history and an act that would be no doubt seen as anti-Semitic. Dublin citizens were divided on the issue.
I go to that park a lot with my children and so on. I honestly am not in favour of renaming it. Although I have gone to marches to support the people of Gaza and the Palestinians, I feel that the naming of the park is separate. I feel that there is a Jewish community in this area that must feel it must be a very difficult time for them, and I feel that that is separate from what's going on in Israel and Gaza and the wider Middle East at the moment.
What's going on over in Palestine, it's horrific and it's disgusting, and you know, to have we're so firmly supporting Palestine, to have even a small park named after.
Today, the Irish Jewish community is dwindling. There are currently only about 2,000 Jews in Ireland, according to a 2022 census, down from over 5,000 a century ago. Current Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog, the son of Chaim Herzog, said renaming the park would be a shameful and disgraceful move, and added that it would also harm the unique expression of the historical connection between the Irish and Jewish peoples. Herzog noted that the relationship between the two countries had deteriorated in recent years, but said he still hopes for the recovery of these important ties. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 13 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside steady temperatures with highs of 23 degrees Celsius or 74 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel, and you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Grave-Lazi. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.